Hi, welcome back to Wildman Wheels. Today, we're going to put the finishing touches on the mini bike, and I'm excited. We got the disc brake. Let me show you here real quick. We got our rear wheel from Go Power Sports. As you can see, it's got a square bolt flange on both sides, so we can do sprocket on one side, and we can do the disc on the other. Went ahead and got the fancy one. It's drilled. So that's gonna, these holes that it lines up with and stuff. That's gonna go on there. Sprocket's gonna go on the other side. We're gonna take that tire off of that wheel and put it onto this wheel. It's a brand new tire. It's only got a few miles on it and still good to go. So that's what we're gonna be doing tonight. Now, I'm not gonna go step by step through removing the tire because we already did that in the last video. So I'm just going to get in here. I'm going to rip it apart real quick, and we're going to see how much of a pain it is to take the old tire off. So I kind of feel like the first thing we should do is go ahead and paint this wheel. I went ahead and grabbed 2 cans. I think that one's closer. I don't know. I do remember back in the day I did use the old Rust-Oleum paint on it, but I don't know. This is spruce green. I hope it kind of matches. I don't remember the exact color that I used on this, and let's hope it looks good. So let's get this painted first real quick so that can be drying while we take the rear well off. Perfect. Not really too concerned about any overspray on the truck because that fender needs to be deleted and a new one put on. This is going to be a project that we're going to be jumping headlong into here very soon. Just need to get some of the parts moved here, and then we'll make a whole video about ripping the rear fender off and putting a new one on. Never done it before, so it should be fun. Yep, that looks pretty dang close. I'm not going to paint the inside of it. It's got good paint on it. I'm just trying to paint to match. It looks like it's going to be pretty close. The disc brake itself is about the same diameter as the actual wheel is, and so you're probably not going to see a whole lot of the wheel. And then on the other side with the 62, the sprocket, you're not seeing a whole lot of the wheel on that side either, but having a silver wheel is really going to, poke through. You'll see that. It's going to look a little goofy. So I think, just touching it up, it may be a shade or two off, but it's really going to, it's not going to blend in very well. So it will blend in well. It's not going to stick out too badly, is what I meant to say. Let's get started. Let's go ahead and just rip this wheel right out of there. Let's see how much of a pain the tire is going to be to get off. It's only been on there for 5 years or something like that. And I don't remember if I put the tires on last time or if I just took it down to a shop and had somebody else do it. I don't remember. So we're going to learn that together. Now, I will say, as far as this wheel, I'm not 100% sure as far as spacers go, if we're going to need to use the exact same original spacers, if I'm going to need to modify those spacers at all, or, you know, do I got to cut them down? Am I going to need completely different spacers? I'm not 100% sure about that, but we'll find out together, and I'll make sure to let you know, so that way when you go to decide to do this upgrade on your mini bike, you'll know right off the bat exactly what do you need. All right, let's get this wheel tore down. Let's get it broke down, and so we'll go ahead and pull this off, the sprocket off real quick, and then we'll go ahead and pop the tire off, in theory. Ooh, right. There's our sprocket, and let's grab the little hardwares out of here. Perfect. That wheel, that bearing is just, I'm sure the heat from the drum right here has caused that to swell, and that's why the bearing's not wanting to stay in there. This is a pretty old wheel. She's been around for a day or two, and nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's okay. It's fine as far as the wheel goes, and so I think I'm going to hang on to it. It'll be a good spare wheel. It does have a bend in it, and so when I'm driving down the road, you can see my back wheel kind of do this little kick out thing, and it's actually bent. The tube, you know, running through the wheel is what's bent, and so the chain tension is constantly tight and loose and tight and loose and tight and loose, and I know that's really hard on chains, and so, you know. So getting a new wheel on there that doesn't do that is going to be very beneficial. Okay, that's all the air. So let's get started. I think I'm going to use a couple 2x4s to set the wheel up on like this. It'll give us a little something, a little more, you know, less weebly wobbly. The first thing you got to do is you got to get the bead broken off, and it's a relatively violent affair when you're doing that. A hammer is basically what you're going to use, and you're just going to want to work your way around the tire, but, you know, try not to hit the wheel, because you can bend it, dent it, ding it, and then you're trying to straighten that when you go to put it back together. Probably doesn't help that I don't have the valve stem out. Let me grab my valve stem tool and we'll get that. There was a little bit of air still in there, just a scotch, not much, but it would have been enough that it would have really kind of put a monkey wrench in it. All right, now we'll resume the you know, hammering with a hammer. Might have to put it on the floor. That worked a lot better, standing on top of it and then smashing on it. So we're able to get it. Now this side's gonna be all weeble wobbly. Let's get our 2x4s down here. There we go. All right. Now we got the beads broken. Did hit the wheel a couple places, but sometimes it happens. Now, the trick. There's a trick. Let's look at the other wheel. If you've never taken a wheel or a tire off of a wheel before, manually, this is how it works. So the bead is going to sit up here around the widest spot, those widest flanges right here. Now, you'll never get the bead off because it does have steel belts that run all the way around in the bead, and you can't just pry it off. So what you actually have to do is push the tire back and then pull the bead into this little hollow area right here. Then you'll be able to get enough of a canter on it to get the bead over the lip, and then you just kind of work your way around. I'm all out of breath. So I'm going to do this so you can see it on your side. So I'm going to push this side down into this hollow area here. And now we have the bead kind of popped out right here. Then what you're going to want to do, now that we have two, leave the second one that you just put in, pull your first one out, cross over, past the second one, and this is the hardest part right here. Because now you're in kind of an awkward position. Sometimes once you get to this point, you're going to have to take smaller bites. Work it around, leave that guy, move it over, grab another small bite. Leave that guy, grab the one before it, and keep working our way around. Now, as you can see, boom, she just popped off. Now, the back side, we're going to do it in reverse. So on a bigger tire or a bigger wheel, you'll just, keep pulling it from the front. But on this smaller guy, we're going to do it kind of in the backwards. So wheels halfway off, we still have to use the same principle. So we're going to shift the wheel all the way over, give her a little canter. Get one in, get another one in. And then drop your tools. Get you a little bit of lube, WD-40 or something. Give everything a good little spray. This stuff I'm using right here, this stuff lubricates better than anything. Super slick stuff. Slicker, son. The tire shops, generally speaking, use like Dawn dish soap or something like that because it's cheap. Now they do make specific, tire lube for putting and taking off tires, especially if you're doing it by hand. If you're using a machine, it's not quite so critical that you use lube. It can kind of just power through. But, whoop, that caught the microphone. But as you can see, you just gotta give her a little massage and you'll get her out of there. So we're gonna hang on to this wheel. Maybe use it in a future project. Maybe, I don't know. But we got a tire. We got our tire off and it's looking pretty good. The bead looks perfectly fine. I'm not seeing any damage. I'm not seeing any dry rot. It was stored inside in a garage for the entire 5 years that it wasn't being used. So there's no, it's not, you know, it's not dry rotted, it's not cracked. It's perfectly good to use. The bead looks fine. We didn't damage it when we were taking it off. We're going to give her the other side a quick shot. Now, this wheel, hopefully she's more or less dryer-ish. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is this side, we're going to make the, the words go forward just because, why not? So I think this is going to be the sprocket side, which means I want to put the valve stem is on this guy here, and I want to put that on the sprocket side. So that way I'll be able to, fish my way through one of these gaping massive holes and be able to get in there to air it up. So we're going to go down this way. I don't know if this paint's entirely dry, but, sure. Now, generally speaking, when you're putting the wheel in, especially on the first little hole here, most of the time, especially if you have it lubed up well, you can just kind of force it in there by hand, kind of like that. And then we'll flip it over. And we're just going to reverse the process of what we just did. And we're going to offset the tire, and we're going to physically push the bead in by hand on one side, and then we're going to use the pry bars to go ahead and pry it on. The paint is not entirely dry, and that's fine. Sometimes actually doing this on the ground and standing on the tire, you can kind of hold the tire down with your weight and then use the pry bars to kind of work it around. I recommend that. Doing it up here on the table, it's not impossible, but it's rough. So I'm going to throw this on the ground, stand on the tire, and just work it around with my short pry bars. Probably should have longer pry bars, but I don't. One more lube. Ugh. All right, we got it. Now, like I said before, the key is don't get too greedy with trying to get, half of the tire on at once. Sometimes you can only get 1 inch at a time, and that's fine. That's the best you're going to do. Let me go. We kind of chewed the paint up a little bit on this side. I think it's going to be fine. This side looks pretty good. Okay, let me go air this tire up real quick. Now, this bead is pretty much set on this side because I was, literally sitting on this side with my knees. Now, the thing is, you can see the bead is just barely touching all the way around here. So it should have more than enough to just go ahead and catch, and then you just air it up until you hear that bead seat on both sides. You want to hear a nice solid pop. On this side, that bead will pop in, and this side may pop, it may not, and that's okay. Also, you'll see on the tire, it'll tell you, any DOT or even non-DOT tires are made in the US, they'll tell you right on there. Do not inflate beyond 26 PSI when seating the bead. They'll tell you right on there, and depending on the tire, it'll tell you what the maximum is. Now, generally speaking, the maximum PSI, right, so it says max load, 233 pounds at 5 PSI, cold. So its operating pressure is 5 PSI. But you can take it up to 36 PSI. Yeah, 36 PSI in order to get the bead to seat. So go ahead and take it up, but you don't need to take it all the way to 36 PSI to seat the bead. If you hear 2 good pops, at 15 PSI, then you're done. Back it back down, set it at the 5 PSI, and call it a day. Obviously, there's no suspension on the bike, and so having this at 5 PSI is actually going to give you a pretty nice, smooth ride. So let's get this aired up real quick, seat the bead, and then let's go ahead and get the sprocket installed, and let's get our disc brake installed, and we can just go ahead and install this bad boy right onto the bike. And then the next thing we're going to start doing is we're going to start hooking up the caliper, and we're going to figure out where on the bike, where on the frame do we need to weld in order to install the caliper onto the bike. All right, went ahead and got her aired up. It popped pretty quick, and usually it does, especially if you're using some kind of lube on the bead on the installation. It kind of just helps it seat right into place. So we're at our 5 PSI. Now let's throw the sprocket on here real quick. I thought about it for a minute, and I don't think I'm going to paint the sprocket. It's black. It's not going to really stick out super good. And, once we get it on there, if I decide, wow, that sticks out like a sore thumb, we can always just hit it with a little touch of paint. Let's get this installed. All right, let's go ahead and install the disc. Yep. All right, so every good shop has, a Tupperware full of hardware. So I'm thinking about using the hardware for the old sprocket, maybe. But we actually have some hardware, ooh, look at there, from the generator that we just hermaphrodited together. And oh yeah, so I'm thinking we may use that hardware. It's a little bit long, but that ain't gonna hurt nothing. Now if we can have the same longness on all of them, hey, 4 equal longnesses. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 nuts. Perfect. Now the sprockets is hub piloted. The hub centers it. With the disc brake here, it is stud piloted. So with this guy, you're going to have to try to line her up the best you can with your eyeballs before you tighten the bolts down, because so the setup I got going on right here, you can see we got the 60-tooth over there. Now we got our disc brake. Now this setup that I went with is not a kit. I did buy the Amazon disc brake kit. Now it wasn't specific for mini bikes. It was 150cc quad. And I figured it's got to be close. And then the actual disc that came with it, it looked like it had a bunch of different holes for all kinds of different sizes. And I figured, it's probably going to work. It's probably going to be close enough. Well, when I got here, it was not. It was not close at all. So now the disc brake caliper and lever and all that was appropriate. Like that fit that that was fine. That part of it was going to work. The cable was long enough, the caliper is big enough, all that. So I did buy this disc from Go Power Sports. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm just telling you where I bought the stuff at. So I did buy this from Go Power Sports to get the right size disc. Now the thickness of this disc is the exact same thickness as the one I got on Amazon. So I know that the caliper is going to fit this disc, but you know, we're just going to have to, we're taking two kits and putting them together. Also, this wasn't necessarily a kit. This is a replacement for, I think one of their go-karts. There's a replacement disc for one of their go-karts, but it had the right bolt pattern to fit on the mini bike wheels. So that's why I bought that one. Okay, now let's get this tire mounted. Now I'm not going to hard mount the tire. I'm going to throw the chain on and clip it on, but I'm not going to hard mount the tire because the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out where we're going to put the caliper. So I want to do the caliper in a way where I don't have to remove the caliper in order to take the tire off the back. So therefore, I'm going to need to have the caliper either on the front or on the top or on the bottom. I don't want to put the caliper on the back. I prefer to have it probably in the front. You got your tubes that come around that go up to your, down to the engine and then up to your seat. And there's a nice little spot. I'd like to try to see if I can't figure out a way to, right in there to the front. So that way you can unbolt it and then you can slide it out. Now we are going to have to make the caliper also adjustable because whenever you adjust for a chain, it's going to moving it back and it's going to be moving it forth. So we're going to need to have slotted holes so we can slide the caliper forward or backward depending on, as the chain stretches, it gets older, it stretches, and you're going to have to slowly move the tire back. We're going to need to move the caliper back with the tire, but then you throw a new chain on and you got to move her all the way back forward again. We're going to want that caliper to be able to slide all the way forward to accommodate, a new chain. So we're going to have to slot those. And that may make it a little weird. I don't know. That's something we're going to have to kind of just play with a little bit and just see what happens. So here we go. Okay, so what I learned is on the original drum brake style setup, there is a short spacer and then there's a long spacer. The long spacer goes on the drum side, the short spacer goes on the sprocket side. With the disc brake setup, you're going to need to have two short ones on both sides. So you could do one or two things. You could either go online, you could buy a short one, or you can take your long one and you can just, just chop it down and make it into a short one. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go cut this down real quick, and then we're going to slap this rear wheel on. So one of the things I noticed about this Amazon brake, hydraulic brake, is it actually does have a switch built into it, and you could run a taillight off of it, which is pretty stinking cool. And that might be something that we do in the future. I might throw a little 12 volt, brake light back here, mount the license plate, the way it should be, and run a couple wires up here to the brake light so you can actually have a working brake light. That might be kind of cool. So I think for tonight, that's going to do it. It's getting kind of late. And I'm going to go ahead and get those spacers cut down so they're the equal lengths on both sides. And then tomorrow, we'll get the tire mounted on there. We'll start mocking up that brake caliper. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. We're just going to kind of play it by ear. Cut some metal, make a shape, weld it onto the frame, and should work just fine. All right, we're back. So I went ahead and took the long spacer and converted it into a short spacer. It's just a longer, bigger than the other one, but it's close enough. I think we'll probably be all right. I am going to go ahead and kind of polish it in a little bit with some sandpaper just to get it flat. It's a little, you know, she's got a little weeble wobble to her on the end. I just kind of eyeballed it and hit her with the old angle grinder. So we finish that up. Let's get the tire on, and then let's mock up this brake caliper and see what do we got to do. How are we going to do this? Okay, let's start mocking up the caliper on this side. 5 feet, that should be more than enough to get from here to here, but it's really not. I mean, it is right on the edge. As you can see here, we don't have a whole lot looped up here on the front, and I'd like to have a little bit extra. So what I'll probably do is in the Amazon affiliate links down below, I'll go ahead and find this same setup here, but I'll try to find one that's maybe like 72 inches long, an extra foot. That'll give you a lot more room to kind of, you know, play around with it and put it exactly where you want. I may just try to find a new brake hose with the banjo bolts on Amazon that's longer, maybe a 72 inch, and then just replace the hose, but keep the caliper and keep the master cylinder. I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I think it's long enough to be able to actually mock this up. And so we're just going to go with that. Now, like I was saying before, I really want to set this caliper in a location where I don't have to remove the caliper or necessarily adjust the caliper in order to remove the tire. That's kind of the biggest thing. You want to make it, you know, easy on, easy off. So that's going to mean I'm going to be putting the caliper to the front of the wheel. You can come on over and take a look. All right. So as you can see, I want to mount the caliper somewhere up here. As you can see, that cable is just, I mean, it's super tight. Unfortunately, I might be able to give myself a little more working room by just disconnecting that there and letting it's a lot better working room. Now we do need to stay, I mean, at least somewhat out of the way of the adjuster, but I'm thinking even if we kind of go up towards the top here. Now I do want to put slots in the holes so I can adjust the caliper forward or backward depending on the chain. So we have a brand new chain right now, and so we're kind of more towards the front of the hole here. But as you can see, we do still have probably a good 1/2 inch of available adjustment. So I want to be able to move it from here at least another 1/2 inch backwards. So as the chain gets old. Now, I might not be able to get a full 1/2 inch of adjustment out of this based off of, you know, clearance issues in this general region, but that's okay. And I can at that point change the chain based off of how much adjustment I have left in my caliper. But I'm thinking something about like this. We need a longer hose. That's okay. We learned that, and that way when I put the links down below, I'm going to make sure I don't give you the one that's too short. Also, I don't know if there is a difference in the frame lengths from this style to this style, and I can look at that and see. It looks like they're probably, the frames are completely different. It looks like this frame may actually be longer if you're looking at like the engine to the front riser tube there. And on this one, it might be close. I don't know. I'll measure and make sure that whatever one I put in there, it'll work on either that style or this style, the Springer front end style, the older style. You know, longer is always better. It's easier to loop a little extra up here, or, you know, have an extra little loop hanging down here than it is to have, obviously, one that's too short. Okay, this is what I got going on over here. Now, one quick disclaimer, okay? I'm a random guy on YouTube, and I'm modifying brakes. It's a safety device. Don't do this. But I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. So I took the brake caliper, and I got it centered about where I wanted it. I pushed it all the way on, as far as it would go, so it's making contact with the sliding pins, front and top and bottom. Pushed it all the way in. I got this piece of angle iron. It's matching up nicely with this gusset plate right here. I did go ahead and slot that hole so I can later, you know, shift it away so it's not making contact with the rotor. But you can see maybe down here, it matches up pretty nicely with this. So I think this angle iron is actually working out perfect. Looks a little ghetto, and maybe we can come in here with a nice little piece of metal and cover that up and make it look more, you know, factory. But I think I'm going to grind the paint off right here. The other thing I'm going to do is, so I got this on here, I pumped up these brakes, and I set the parking brake. So this caliper is just hanging on for dear life onto the rotor in here. So that's holding over here. I got this down nice and tight, and this thing's just not really moving. So I think that's going to hold it well enough for me to be able to get in here and just, you know, give it a little with the welder. I can weld to this bar on the underneath side. I cut a little chamfer in there so I can weld to the bar right here. I'll be able to weld all the way down here. And then after I get the tire taken back off, I'll be able to weld a bead. So I can get my phone in here. I'll be able to weld a bead all the way down this side. So it'll be welded on both sides of this plate, top to bottom. And then once we have this and we go, this is where it's going to fit, then I can come down here and I can figure out a mounting solution for down here on this side. I may actually weld to this bracket right here, which used to be the old brake cable bracket that ran down to the little, you know, little doohickey right here. So I may incorporate that. That'll give me something to weld to, as well as the frame across here. So we'll see. You know, getting these brakes on this mini bike kind of reminds me of one of my favorite Bible verses, James 1, 12 through 15. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. I do have to say, that don't look half bad. Also, quick tip, the TIG welding gloves are way better than MIG welding gloves. You just got to remember, you don't have that insulation, but you can really, they're just nicer gloves, very soft. You just got to remember you don't have that insulation, and there's just thin, soft leather, and you will burn your hands, so don't touch anything hot. But they'll keep the sparks off your hands, and it's pretty nice. I do have to say I am thoroughly impressed with the Harbor Freight titanium welder. It's, I mean, I don't know if you can hear it, but it is just crackling bacon. It's welding great. I'm super happy about it, and I am just using the flux core right now, so it's not the best. I do have a tank, and you get it filled up, and then we can switch over to solid core. But the flux core is working great. It's laying down pretty solid beats. And you gotta remember, I'm not a professional welder, so I'm just, YouTube certified welder, and I'm pleasantly surprised with the results that I'm getting out of it. So let's start working on the bottom piece, and then we'll slot it out a little bit so we can move that caliper out just a scotch, and I think we should be pretty good. I mean, we're going there. And the other thing is, I'm trying to make this simple, just quick and easy and simple. I do have a CNC plasma cutter, and I've got CAD programming, and I could get in there and just really make this nice, complicated, awesome, very custom fit bracket that's going to do exactly what I need it to do. But that's not going to really inspire you guys to really get out there and try to install a disc brake system on your mini bike. You'll be like, well, I don't have a CNC plasma cutter. I can't make that bracket part that you just made. And so that's why I'm doing it this way. I want you to feel and see that, look, we're just using scrap metal, some angle iron, some drill bits and a welder, and we're making it work. I want you to have the confidence to go out and try this on your own. Give it a shot. You can do this. It's not that bad. Now, careful. You're dealing with your life here, and also anybody else, that happens to be around you. But hey, that doesn't mean don't go give it a shot. I got faith in you. All right. That actually looks perfect. I mean, we're not going to know if it's perfect or not until we do, 98 miles an hour down a dirt road and see if the brakes actually do brake things. But so far, it fits on there nicely. I could say that at least. Yeah. All right. So I think it's probably time to take the tire off. I would like to weld the back side of this top piece, get that welded in, clean all of the, the schmoo off of everything, and then, you know, give her a quick little paint job, just kind of touch it up, and then, you know, we're ready to put it back together. Now, I don't want to go all out and get this one fully installed and bled and all that stuff until I can get the longer hose, you know, in, and then we can really kind of get after it. But we got her installed. Why don't you come down here and take a look, and you can kind of see how I made my brackets. Okay, so you can see up here, pretty simple. I did end up just cutting a little notch out of here and a little notch out of right there. You got the hole kind of somewhat wallered out, but it's not great. This bottom piece, I ended up notching to fit around this tube right here. I angled that back to make sure we had plenty of room for this guy. We cut a little notch off of there to make sure, you know, clearance on the caliper. And you can see I got a few dingleberries on the wheel there, but that's all right. So also with this lower guy, everything's still hot, so try to make sure I don't touch it. The right down here, you can see this is the bracket for the original brake cable, and that's welded to the frame right here. And so I actually welded this plate to that bracket, kind of beefed up the welds here and on the underneath side a little bit better, and I also fully welded it around the pipe. So I think that's going to have enough. There shouldn't be a whole lot of lateral forces applied onto it. It should be mostly just straight down. This one is going to have a little bit of pulling, but that's okay. We got a nice big long bead weld down here. And when I take the tire off, I'm going to fully weld it on the back side down here as well. So that should be more than strong enough. The only thing I'm worried about is I do need to kind of slot this out just a little bit more than what it currently is. And I just don't want to end up making this too thin. It's already pretty thin, but I think we'll be all right. Seeing as how we have two, it's going to be sharing the load between the two of them. I think, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. If I die in a motorcycle crash, you'll know why. It's because that was too thin. That's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for stopping by and watching me weld and grind and things on my mini bike. And I couldn't get I need a longer brake hose so I can finish setting up the brakes. I'm not going to get that in time for you to watch this video. If I waited for that, then this video would come out in like 4 weeks or something. I don't know. But I will put a link down below for this brake kit that I have on here, which seems to be working great, minus the hose not being long enough. If I can find another kit that's the same thing, just longer hose, then I'll put that down in instead of this. If not, I'll put this kit down and then I'll find a longer hose that should be the right one. Whichever hose I end up buying for this, I'll put that in there. But just remember, this is a 60 incher. We probably need, I would say 72 inch, give you an extra foot. 1 foot is gonna be, and that might even be kind of, you know, right on the edge. 75, 78 inches probably work wonderful. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for supporting the video. Thank you for watching the videos. It's amazing to see how many of you guys are watching these videos. I never really expected this this early into my attempt at YouTubing. So it's amazing. It's awesome. It's giving me a lot of encouragement to just continue on with other projects. Now, I do want to say real quick, I just picked up 2 awesome projects. They're here right now, and we're gonna get started on one of them very, very soon. I also have another generator. I don't know if you guys want to see me do another generator video, then, you know, drop it down in the comments if you'd like to see that. Otherwise, I'll just, you know, fix it, give it back to the guy, and then maybe next week we'll go ahead and get started on, I don't remember. I've got like 45 projects, and we're just gonna get started on one of them next week. I haven't quite gotten that far. It's a week away.